So, you want to take your own life, I hear. Well, join the damn club. We'd have t-shirts, but our highest members are no longer with us. As they took the road less traveled, those left behind stumbled forward confused, wondering why it came to be this way, wondering what could have happened differently. As that's the first lesson of this club, kids. You have to learn how to laugh in the face of death. As it welcomes us all, we must welcome it back somehow in open arms. For even if we're in an inescapable imprisonment of suffering, there is a difference between tragedy and hell. And we face that each and every day. For some people just don't seem to understand how cruel this world can be. Oftenly, just seeing glimpses of that darkness from internalized trauma, at least we'll have an understanding of what's manifested from those shadows when we've collectively overcome them. As it's like the definition of an origin story, a lot of who we are is affected by the trauma we've perceived in this world, which are deeply distressing or disturbing experiences that shape how we see things and what we feel. So I'd imagine if you're still listening to these words, you've seen some things you'd rather forget and don't quite know how to feel about them. So I'd like to remind you, you're not alone in that agony. As I understand the pain of torment and torture profoundly, let me share a couple secrets with you from my experiences. Acknowledging and accepting that a tragedy has befallen on you is the first step in any strategy we have to recover with. As it's a building block to bear the weight of progression, we need everyone we can manifest to regain control over our lives. And my favorite exercise to construct each one with meaning is reliving those memories over and over and over and over again. With as much detail as I can muster, I'm almost choking on sadness, and the tears are falling, is a good indication of the healing process. Truly reflecting a sense of morality in oneself as well, depicted from the perceivement in mind. Now, once you've carved it fresh into your memory, write it down somewhere or somehow. Just don't use your flesh or blood too much. You need those things, silly goof. As those scars only perpetuate the suffering on the surface, we need to go deeper to actually resolve the problem. And it's okay if you stumble or get lost or even confused on this journey we share, as those are conditions we all face together. And I want you to know, I'll always love you, no matter who you are or what you are, unconditionally. But that doesn't mean I'll accept what you do to yourself or others if your intentions are harmful. For drawing that line is where I define myself, and knowing my own limitations is what makes me who I am, and I wouldn't want to be any other person. One day, I'm sure you'll feel the same way, in hope at least, for the next secret is a difficult one to keep, and that is, to not lie to yourself or others, as it oftenly just puts more obstacles in your way of getting to the source of how you actually feel. It may make life easier for a time, but living a lie can disassociate you from reality and conflict your reasoning and self-expression of identity, which is pretty damn important when you're not succumbed to the suffering of temptation in the materialistic world, defining yourself by money, possessions, and the number of people willing to tell you your shit smells like roses. As these are things that we use to fill a void within our hearts for a substance of meaning. Regaining control of our lives takes dedication and persistence, balancing the complexity of emotion and the fortitude for discipline. Structure and reward systems, love and happiness, pain and suffering. We need every experience we can encounter to grow, to go beyond the shell of yesterday's vessel, to see every reflection in the gray until we get a sense of what's black and white. As that's how we construct morality, from light to darkness, darkness to light. There's a collective sense and understanding of what's good and what's bad. So let's take a deeper look into the depths of that darkness as I share my most traumatic experience, one that will haunt me for the rest of my life. And just to let you know, I wrote it towards my best friend at the lowest point of my life, after getting cheated on and when I was taking care of my ill father. So these words were written at a time when my mind was lost. But I can try my best to stimulate an experience from the emotions I felt, and reminding myself and others where I once came from, and cycling that fundamental strength it takes to be honest and courageous. Starting to feel that suffocation take hold again. You talk about visceral imagery and sensations. That is true. It's beyond difficult to slither from that grasp of torture when your mind is the executioner. And after reliving so much trauma in a moment of persecution to relieve you of your isolation in that nightmare, I've fallen once more into the clutches of terror and anxiety, needing to write or fearing the seduction of steel in my veins. Master, please just acknowledge me. I'm choking on misery, finding it difficult to breathe once again. I don't know what to do either sometimes, letting life consume me in its hell. I just want the pain to stop. And writing to you to deconstruct the emotion from my intellect in the only remedy I found. So I'm sorry for the intensity of my afflictions, and maybe I shouldn't even hit send, because the simple, ritualistic endeavor is lightening my heart once more from those years of isolation and suffering. However, it's been that pain of searching for acceptance that even made me come this far through that threshold, reliving the biggest trauma I've ever had so far. Having to slowly listen to a woman having her mind and body crippled as I sat, scared and empathetically feeling every fucking wound she tore into my heart through her screaming. Of course I was high as balls, only heightening those sensations, not knowing what to do. Because at first, Donna, all I could feel was the thumping from above me as I had my music and playing my game. After a while, finally, taking out my headphones, I began to hear those soft cries for help, not wanting to believe what I was hearing. Feeling one of our human nature's most prominent capabilities, ignorance to the hell I was listening to, awaiting for it to end in my self-reflection of misery. Though as the torture continued, as she was screaming, "Please stop, help, why?" in a battered cycle of clinging to those words as the pain persisted, I lost it once more, heading right the fuck upstairs to pound on their fucking door. "I know what you're doing in there, and I'm calling the cops." Tears in my eyes. Not having a phone, I knocked on one of my neighbor's doors. Thankfully, with no question, he let me call. And some fucking how, when I was waiting for the cops to show up, those shitbags fucking went to the store because I stupidly said I was calling the cops too early, giving them way too much time. The cops get there and I explain to them why I called, bringing them up to that hell, and those little shits aren't there coming back from the store. Somehow, they get the cops to believe that it was their TV. Fuck you. I'll never trust in the cops to take care of anything again. The first and last time I ever called them. And it hurt so much, this being the biggest part of that torture, and how it will stay with me forever. After the cops leave and the matter settle, I hear them turn up the music and continue to feel a subtle thud banging against my ceiling. I died with her that night. And the more I write about these moments that put me through hell, I feel a sensation of relievement overcome me in bliss, like a weight is being lifted from the crushing suffocation of my agony. I had 2 more things to mention before I felt some closure to that fear you read me riddle through, as another restless night afflicts me with insomnia. In some semblance of justice of that night, I brought it to my landlord because I felt crazy. There was no fucking way that was a TV. Only even slightly feeling wonder about that blight because of how high I had been the first time I took acid. Wanting to desperately make sure I hadn't somehow imagined that suffering. So when I talked to the landlord, I was the manager of the building at the time, truly thinking I should have just opened that fucking door just then with my keys. I asked the landlord if he could pull up the video footage of last night, and there it was. 2 men with their arms wrapped around a young lady walking up to that room. And in searching the footage, we never saw her leave. So in whatever acceptance I can muster of that, I got them immediately evicted at least, not really doing anything to quench that cycle of carnage those sadists would persist in. Which is why I strongly feel that through my acid rape trip, I'll give her the help she needed to the world. My sad excuse to not be strong enough to save her then. Now here we are, 4 years later, after that fateful night. A master of procrastination, who I most certainly am, sitting here sharing a story written by my better half. As that is what it seems to take in order to deconstruct an operation of reason from those miserable moments. A separation of self to reflect back onto, for a standard to uphold, and a point of observation, either stealing upwards or downwards from within that slice of reality. For we all face turmoil to deal with on the daily, and there are those that outweigh others. And if you're listening to these words still, can you find a sense of gratitude against the grain of such afflictions? People are tortured, murdered, slandered, and used for the benefit of others, either financially, sadistically, empathetically, egotistically. Practically put a tiddly there and you've nailed it. Now maybe you'll understand why the applicable nature of humor consumes us, as I greatly believe laughter is one of the strongest forms of natural medication we have to fill those voids of sadness. I'd rather laugh than cry most days too, but we need to give ourselves the emotional support and courage it takes to cry about the hardships we've faced, but not become so overwhelmed by them that we drag everybody else around us into the depths of despair too. For that leads into a perpetual cycle of destruction, for that manifests and entangles everyone within it to be stuck in a loop of chaos and misery. So where do you draw the line? What kind of character are you enabling and making decisions for your life? Are you part of the problem, or are you going to be part of the solution? For let me make something as crystal clear as I can in this moment of divided space. Your life is your choice. But if your intentions are harmful for yourself or others, you create misery, in reflection to the hell inside yourself you haven't conquered. So believe me when I say this. Time, acknowledgement, patience, understanding, dedication, discipline, and persistence are a majority of the tools you'll need to give yourself the opportunity to grow and flourish from the bloody battles of psychosis. As a pursuit in happiness is made up of the balancing of all aspects in life, there is no shortcut in granting access to that threshold without the key of hope laying foundation to walk upon. To tread within such enlightenment, as these are words I've been told that I think everyone needs to hear, and they are, Believe in the me that believes in you. And simply put, I do believe in each and every one of you. To be your own person and make your own decisions based off the experiences you've went through. But don't you want to break the chains of this reality and manifest the best version of yourself, to breathe life into your world, to make a true difference and share in the greatness we can achieve from the dedication towards the strength it takes to be an honest individual of authenticity? To be the change you wish to see in this world before you perish from paralyzing perceivements of phenomena. You find that fire inside yourself to forge a fairy tale past the victim you've been made from someone else's story, and become the damn hero of your own. To become someone worth remembering while you still have the full functioning capability to do so. For you were not weak. You were not stupid. You just stopped believing in yourself and those around you, wondering what reason you have to live for when nothing seems to be going right. So if you have no purpose in life, here's a combo package manipulistically presented as the American dream. It's been sold for nearly 70 years now. Having a family, finances, owning a home, owning a business, a car, nice things, and an integrity for infrastructure. As it certainly fills many voids within a materialistic nature for things and people, it's a construct for marketing psychology, for those people will try to make you feel like you need something really badly, even when you have plenty, in whatever desperate attempt they can muster to change your mind. A lot like what I'm doing here, but I hope you can sense my intentions are not harmful, except to the sting of my perception in reality and the words I may use. So wake the fuck up. Your subconscious is dreaming your life away, and you're living in a nightmare. So dig down deep to each root of your problems and fix them one by one. Use every method at your disposal, like memory, Google, family, friends, art, theater, writing, talking, therapy from a professional, meditation, walking outside, gaming, reading, anime, exercise, sex, drugs, rock and roll, music, photography, engineering, science, math, history. There are so many things you could be spending the rest of your life on. So try a few new things to experiment within your routine, because laying in bed all day or getting tortured for someone else's amusement isn't going to change your situation much. Differences have to be made, and how you feel is an exceptionally easy thing to change from dedicated thought processes, compared to the obstructive truth of our reality. Simply put, changing yourself is easier than changing the world around you. But being the change you want in the world is where greatness is born, whether it be the greatest good or greatest evil we have ever known. Be who you were meant to be by exploring every possibility while relishing in the temptation of suffering, as it's that pain that reminds us we are still alive.